All right, welcome guys to the NBA live stream. We got 3 games to go over. Excited to talk about the slate. We have one game that's supposed to be played at a pretty fast pace. 2 games, other 2 are kind of going to be slower paced games. So I think there's a couple ways you can get different. I think the first couple games can be popular. I'll mention one play in the late slate that I really like for GPPs, and I think is going overlooked in the slate. We'll get to them. I think if you guys watch my content this year, you kind of know where I'm going with that. But yeah, let's go over what we know so far before we get into the breakdown. So let me refresh Fantasy Labs. We did get news that Noel went through shoot around as a game time decision. I think he plays. So that's my guess since he went through shoot around. We got Westbrook, Neto, Beal, Rui, and Len, same starters for the Wizards. And Mitchell Robinson still without a timetable for a return. And Alfred Payton is still starting, even though he's barely going to play. So let's go over these Vegas odds. We have the Wizards and the 76ers, a 229 over under. The 76ers, 8-point favorites. Hawks and Knicks, a 213 over under. The Knicks, 2.5-point favorites. And Grizzlies, Jazz, this one has some blowout risk, 218 over under. Jazz, 9.5-point favorites. DK for Mayor, what's up, man? What's going on, Patrick? Yeah, it was pretty solid night for me too. Nice 4x. But all right, so let's start off, I guess, with Washington and Philadelphia. Really quick though, guys, if you're just coming in, if you could leave a like button on the live stream. Where are we at? We're at just over 100 viewers now and 20 likes, and try to reach 100 before the end of the show. So I'll mention one more time, maybe halfway through, once we get more people in here. But okay, so we'll start off with Washington and Philly. And right now, Russell Westbrook's nothing more than a contrarian option. You got to look at other plays in the slate first. Second, you got to look at the fact there's lack of value, right? Or value that you're not going to feel good about. And third, I just think there's spend ups that look better, right? With Russell Westbrook, he was already playing 40 minutes in the regular season, so his minutes don't really increase. Whereas other guys, play, like Embiid goes from like 32 to like 38, right? It just tough matchup. I'm just not going to get to Westbrook. Basically, a cross out for me. Now, Brad Beal, I mentioned I much preferred him to Westbrook last slate. He had a nice game at somewhat low ownership. I still, once again, much prefer Beal to Westbrook. He did a good job with the peripherals as well. 10 boards, 6 assists, 33 real-life points. Beal is the guy for me way over Westbrook by a mile. Like, it's not close. I'm not even considering Westbrook because what you have to sacrifice on the slate. 25% Westbrook feels high to me. It honestly feels high. I think you're sacrificing too much if you get to Westbrook. That's just my take. Maybe we see a massive game from Westbrook here in a tough matchup. I just think this is not the regular season, right? We don't have as many good value plays. So I'm kind of just off Westbrook. Ish Smith is too pricey for me. And then you got some questionable value guys, but guys we got to consider because, again, you got to play some cheap guys. Rui Hachimura, I think, is one guy you can consider. In 36 minutes, went for 19 fantasy points, almost half a fantasy point per minute. That is not good, but it is good to see they played 36 minutes. So with that being said, I think Rui's a fair value option. Again, it's not the best matchup, but he should play big minutes, and I think it's certainly viable. With the 3-headed center monster rotation, again, Gafford is the guy that has the most upside. Be careful, though. Again, he's always prone to foul trouble, and now he'll be going up against Joel Embiid. I have a hard time feeling good about that. Bertans, I think, is another guy that will pick up some ownership. Be careful here also. He is super light in scoring. He actually hit some shots last game, so that's one for 20-plus fantasy points. He also has a floor of like single-digit fantasy points, but he is below 4K. So, yeah, guys like Rui and Bertans, are you getting excited about playing either? No, but you're probably going to have to play at least 1 or 2 guys like this on this 3-game slate. So they're in consideration. And Neto, I guess, will be a super low-owned play. I think we get about 20 to 25 minutes. I guess I don't hate it either. I think he might be going a little overlooked. I feel like everyone's kind of gravitating maybe towards a Bertans, maybe a Rui. Don't completely rule out Neto, though. If he plays like 25 minutes, he can go and get you 20 fantasy points. So, yeah, you got like... There's a group of guys you got to have in like the value bin, and you just got to like pick and choose and kind of hope the guys you pick don't kill you. I think the guys from the Wizards that you can consider for value are guys like Rui, Neto, Bertans. On the Philadelphia side, so really like the 76ers here. I think that them and the New York Knicks are my 2 favorite teams to target in the slate. Again, Embiid, I'm going right back to the well. Maybe recency bias will lower the ownership. We are most likely not going to get early foul trouble from him again. Again, the foul trouble was BS too. First and third fouls on Embiid were just not fouls. So that tilted me a lot. But yeah, I think Embiid is going to play close to 40 minutes, 35 plus at least in a close game. I guess there's some blowout risk here, but not as much as the Memphis game, the late game. Yeah, I love Embiid at the top. Like Embiid versus Westbrook, it's Embiid by a mile over Westbrook, not even close. Absolutely love Joel Embiid here. And then Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, I think are really solid plays too. Just Beal, I feel like they might be slightly over-owned. Ben Simmons is about 50%, Tobias Harris is about 30% that last slate. Again, both of them went off because Embiid was on the bench for a good amount of the first half. So I'm not saying they're bad plays, but maybe slightly over-owned. I do think you can play one of these guys with Embiid. I will say, in the higher dollar tournaments last slate, Embiid was like 70%, Ben Simmons was like 50%, and Harris was like 30%. So, and I saw a lot of people play all three together. I think playing all three together would be slightly suboptimal. Maybe the optimal build is to pick Embiid plus one of Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, because, again, I think even though they're going to be a little bit over-owned, they look great at their prices with this matchup, right? This is just the best matchup against the Washington Wizards. So even though I think they might be slightly over-owned, I still think they're really good plays. And optimal build-wise, maybe you pair one of those guys with a guy like Joel Embiid. Now, we got some value here we got to talk about in guys like Danny Green and Seth Curry. I do not like playing score-independent guys, but there's just not a ton of value to choose from here. So Seth Curry probably gets about 30 minutes. Again, he's a decent shooter. He went for 27 fantasy points last game, firmly in play. Danny Green, you guys know I absolutely hate playing this guy, but he should play about 30 minutes. A guy that can get some blocks and steals. Has to hit threes really to get value, though. He's someone we got to consider. So Green, Seth Curry, because of the matchup, I think they're both pretty decent value options. Just got to pray if you play one of them that they actually hit their shots. That's probably it. Like Dwight Howard off the bench got more run last game because Embiid got in foul trouble. Don't expect that. The rest of the guys on the bench, they ran like 11 guys, and no one really played a ton of minutes. The guys like Maxey, Milton, Korkmaz, George Hill, Thibault. I guess George Hill. If I had to pick one, it would be George Hill. He played 18 minutes. He's a veteran. I think we probably get around 15 minutes from George Hill. So, yeah, if you made me pick, I would go with a guy like Hill off the bench. Okay, so let's move on to Atlanta and New York. I guess real quick, if you guys could, again, we got over 200 viewers already and 60 likes. If you're just coming in, drop a like on the live stream. It helps me out a lot. All right, so let's talk about this one now. Atlanta, New York. On the Atlanta side, I think they're going to come in at a little bit lower ownership. My favorite play is Trae Young at 8.5K. He had a massive game last game. I still think he's underpriced. I don't care that it's the Knicks. It is the fact that he's going to play 35-plus minutes. It's the fact that he's most likely going to shoot 20-plus times, and he's only 8.5. So I like Trae Young a lot here. I think he is one of the better spot-ups of the slate. Really like me some Trae. I think he's playable in both formats. I do. Now, guys like Collins, Capella, both got some big minutes. Both more secondary plays, though, at their respective prices. Again, Capella, we could see a massive 20-20 game from him. Wouldn't be shocked about it. It just, not something that really stands out with him at the price. And then John Collins, kind of the same thing. Like, he had a subpar game. He's been very up and down this season. He does have upside, but, again, the consistency hasn't been there. So they're more secondary plays, not out of play. Bogdan's probably my second favorite play here. I think he's going a little bit overlooked in the slate. I think if people are going to go someone for Atlanta, they're going to go Trae Young. But don't rule out Bogdan Bogdanović. Again, like, if you're just game box score watching, he's been so consistent, right? He's like every single game above 30 fantasy points. He's got to be their number 2 scoring option on offense. I think he's a sneaky play today that I think is going a little bit under-owned. So, yeah, I'm actually good going to Bogdan Bogdanović there for GPPs. The rest of the Hawks, not much. Gallo, 20 to 25 minutes on the bench. Herter, probably about 25 minutes on the bench. Again, as a last piece in, sure. DeAndre Hunter was popular in the higher dollar stuff last slate. He was a complete bust. Only played 22 minutes. Maybe if he plays better, they extend him a bit, but And Lou Williams will play, probably the backup point guard, and play 10 to 15 minutes. Nothing more than a dart throw. I think if you take a shot at Lou Williams, you either, one, got to hope he gets really hot in the limited time, or two, hope with some like early foul trouble from one of the guards. Other than that, I have a hard time seeing Lou Williams pay off that salary. Now, if we move on to the Knicks, the Knicks and the 76ers are my two favorite teams to target here. So Julius Randle had a massive, or an awful, I should say, game last game while he was massive chalk. 6 of 23 shooting. He did actually play less minutes too. I'm not super concerned about that. I think he gets 40 plus here. I think he's a little bit underpriced. I think Julius Randle is one of the safest spin-ups in the board. Really like Randle. Barrett, more of a secondary option here at 6'2". I think we probably get about 35-ish minutes from him. Again, Burks played really well at the bench, so he lost a couple of minutes. Reggie Bullock lost a couple of minutes. The Knicks rotation is a little bit inconsistent with like some of those secondary guys. We'll talk about that, though. So Barrett, more of a secondary option. Much prefer Derrick Rose. He's going to be popular. I'm fine eating the chalk. I think he's one of the best, probably the best play in the mid-range. He played close to 40 minutes, right? That it's just too cheap for a guy that's going to run the point guard and play close to 40 minutes off the bench. Love D Rose. Now, with that being said, again, everyone's going to play D Rose. That means no one's going to really play RJ Barrett at a similar price. If you want to go Barrett and GPPs and the larger field stuff to get different, don't hate it. I would just rather get to Rose. Reggie Bullock, surprisingly, just really lost minutes. Only played 19 minutes. I think it's partly due to them wanting to give Derrick Rose more minutes, partly due to Alec Burks playing really well at the bench too. Maybe if Alec Burks doesn't have a really good game off the bench, that Reggie Bullock plays more. But at 5'1", I'm going to take a wait and see approach with him. Now Burks, this is a tough one. This is a tough one because he played really well, but only played 26 minutes. What happens here if he comes out the bench and bricks his first few shots and doesn't play well? Like, does he only play like 15 minutes? I think it's a possibility. I think with the recent games, he might be a little bit overowned. Now, I know he was my favorite value play last slate at low ownership. He crushed. I guess I'm just a little bit worried. What happens if things go wrong for Brooks early? What happens if he, again, doesn't hit his first few shots? Do they get to throw those minutes back to Reggie Bullock and then Burks plays a lot less minutes? I don't know. So there is risk involved with Burks. Obviously, I still like his upside of the bench, a good score. Just a little bit of concern there. And Nerlens Noel, do we have confirmation? I fully expect him to play now with him going through pregame warmups. Still no confirmation, but Noel at 4K. So we got injured last game in 24 minutes, going for 15 fantasy points. He was going to play over 30 if he didn't roll that ankle. So with that being said, I think Noel is one of the better value plays on the board for sure. A decent point per minute guy, a guy that can block some shots, get some steals. The only issue I have with Nerlens Noel is the fact that he is only center eligible. We have Embiid on the slate, and we have one guy in the late game that I really want to play in GPPs. So for like my personal build, it's a little bit trickier to get to Noel. But I think if you're building an optimal lineup, I think Noel is a value guy you want to look to for sure. And then we got to talk about two guys off the bench here where minutes could fluctuate one and quickly. So this is going to be a high risk, high reward play. Peyton's still starting, so Alfred Payton's going to play probably 10 minutes. That doesn't really affect it. It's just the fact of quickly, the same thing I'll say about Burks, right? He started off hot last game, so he got extended. What happens when he doesn't start off hot? What happens if he misses his first couple threes? Well, we saw this actually against the San Antonio Spurs. 11 minutes, negative 0.5 fantasy points. Didn't shoot well against Boston. 14 minutes, 3 fantasy points. So Quickly's been very up and down. There's not a lot of viable plays in this like below 3.5K range. I think he might be a little bit over-owned tonight, right? Just because there's not many options here. And be careful with Quickly. That's all I'm saying is if he doesn't start off the bench hot, if he doesn't make his first couple shots, I think there's a chance he gets limited to like 10 to 15 minutes. And I have a kind of a feeling he might be decently popular here. I'm good getting away from the ownership if he's going to pick up a lot tonight. So that's kind of my take with Quickly. For sure in play. Same thing about Burks, right? Same thing I said is just the fact that like what happens if both Quickly and Burks struggle, right? Is that just more minutes for guys like Reggie Bullock who got under 20 last game? And finally, Taj Gibson. So 3.3K. He played 24 minutes last game, again, closed over Noel because Noel got injured. I think we probably get somewhere around 15 to 20 minutes from Taj. Now, someone asked me, a couple people asked me already, if Noel plays, can you still play Taj Gibson? I think the answer is yes. I think, if you're going to ask, if you say, who would you rather play between Quickly and Taj Gibson, I feel more comfortable with Taj Gibson. I think he has the much higher floor. He's a guy that can get some rebounds, some putbacks, right? So Of course, I'm not super excited about playing Taj Gibson if Noel plays and he only plays 15 to 20 minutes. But for me, would rather get to Taj over a guy like Quickly. I just think he has a little bit of a higher floor. And obviously, if Noel can't play, you play Taj Gibson, right? That's pretty clear. He's the best value on the board then. All right, let's finish up with Memphis and Utah. So I hinted at this a couple times. One of my favorite tournament plays and is going overlooked tonight. Jonas Valanciunas. I'm sure you guys are surprised. No, you're not surprised at all. You guys know I love playing JV. He played 39 minutes last game. We know JV is a phenomenal point per minute guy. I get that this is a terrible matchup. I think that's going to lower the ownership. I think you can go for 60 here at probably sub 15% ownership. This is not an optimal play. If you're building an optimal lineup, don't play JV. But I like him a lot here for tournaments. I think he's going overlooked. Sign me up for a low-owned Jonas Valanciunas on a 3-game slate. Now, that being said, the rest of the Grizzlies are more secondary options. John Morant will be low-owned, and I agree he should be low-owned. Unless JV gets in foul trouble, I have a hard time seeing him pay off that salary. Again, the one game Ja had a big game was when Jonas Valanciunas got in early foul trouble against Golden State. Now, the secondary options here for Memphis with Brooks, Slow-Mo, Triple J, the other three in the starting lineup. Give me Brooks. Give me Brooks. I think he's a fair play. Should play 35 to 40 minutes. He's going to shoot the ball a ton. Like, he's shooting the ball 20-plus times a game. So, yes, he's a little bit reliant on the scoring, but at 6.3K, like, in this 3-game slate, like, in that range, you're not going to get guys shooting 20-plus times. So, I think Dylan Brooks is actually a pretty solid play in the mid-range. Slow-Mo is fine. Fine filler option. We know what Slow-Mo is, right? We know he's going to play about 30 minutes. We know we can get some rebounds, some assists, some blocks, some steals. We know he probably doesn't have insane upside as a last piece in, though. That's fine. Triple J, he'll be low-owned. He's gotten foul trouble back-to-back games. If he stays out of foul trouble, we might push for 30-plus minutes. But he's just not looked the best. I think if you want to go to the large field tournaments, not going to talk you off him. I'm probably not going to do it. Bench guys, Bane lost minutes last game. Somewhere around 20 to 25 minutes is playable, I guess. Tillman plays the backup 5, but only becomes viable if you think JV gets in early foul trouble. I think Grayson Allen would be probably my favorite bench guy because he's played 20-plus minutes the last couple games. He obviously still has a low floor. But if we're going to continue to get about 25 minutes from Allen, he is at least playable. And now finishing up with the Utah Jazz. So Mitchell, I haven't seen anything about a limit for Mitchell. So if we don't get news, I think we get close to normal minutes. That would be my guess. So, if we don't get news, maybe instead of 38 minutes from Mitchell, we get 34, which would still make him a pretty solid play in the slate. I think he's going to be under-owned. And if by the off chance they just say screw it and give him his complete normal minutes, and he plays 38, 39 minutes, he can go out and get you 50+. And again, I think he's going to be low-owned. So I am intrigued here by Mitchell. I think the much safer play is Mike Conley for cheaper at 6'7". He shot 6 of 18 last game, someone for 50+ fantasy points. He has a decently high floor. Again, I like the matchup here, and he should play 30 to 35 minutes. I think Conley's a pretty safe option on the slate. Don't mind Gobert either. He fouled out last game. He probably plays over 30 minutes. They need his defense on a guy, Jonas Valanciunas. The rest of the Jazz a little bit overpriced. Clarkson, Bojan, Ingles, all guys I'll pass on with Mitchell back. Royce O'Neal, actually, I think is an interesting value play. I know no one's getting excited about Royce O'Neal. I know he has a floor of probably about 10 to 15 fantasy points. But they need his defense. He's going to play probably 35 minutes here. And he can hit some threes. He can fall into some rebounds and assists. So, I think Royce O'Neal is one of those, I talked about it, a bin of value guys. Just throw him in there and hope, pick a couple guys from there and hope they don't kill you. That's really kind of the approach that I'm taking. And Favors, I think normally we get about 10 to 15 minutes from him. He's a decent point per minute guy. Nothing more than a large field dart throw. Yes, he played 23 minutes last game, but that was because Gobert fouled out. So I think the only way you play him is in large field tournaments, or you just hope Gobert gets in some early foul trouble. Okay, so let me refresh one more time, and then we can do some questions here. Guys, we are at 300 plus viewers and 100 likes. Appreciate the support. Okay, so first question, Beal or Trey? That's pretty close. I'll go Trey by the slimmest of margins. You're not playing Conley with Mitchell back. That's fine. I still think the price is doable on Mike Conley. 6'7" for a guy that's probably going to push for 35 minutes. Mitchell's been out for a while. Derek Favors' game log is intriguing. Yeah, I mean, he's only going to play about 10 to 15 minutes so Gobert doesn't get in foul trouble, so. Rui or Burks? I think Rui is the safer play. Unless he gets in foul trouble, we should get 30-plus minutes from Rui. Whereas Burks, I really think there's a wide range of outcomes, right? I mentioned it, same thing with Quickly. I was like, what happens if Burks comes off the bench and doesn't play well? I think they limit his minutes. So safety-wise is Rui. Upside-wise is Burks if things go well. We saw the upside in Burks last game. Play the Grizzlies without Phil. Utah ain't blowing them out. I mean, yeah, I'm playing Jonas Valanciunas tonight at low ownership, so I'm rolling the dice there. Beal versus Trey, I think it's really, really close. Simmons, Herter, Green, Rui, Embiid, Rose, Randall, Noel. No, I think that's a pretty good lineup. I do. Like, Herter is fine off the bench, 25 minutes. Green will play about 30. Rui, 30 plus. I think that looks pretty good. Trey or Mitchell. Give me Trey over Mitchell. Trey Young, Derrick Rose, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, Taj, Simmons, Randall, and Burks. So, okay, you're fading Embiid and going with Tobias and Ben Simmons. I think you kind of need the Embiid foul trouble. So, yeah, that's a big risk, I think. Grizzlies are going to come in low owned. Best spend up, it's Embiid by a wide margin for me. JV, Simmons, and Gafford are Embiid, Brooks, and Len. The second one. DK, you absolutely destroyed that Rollins guy on Twitter. Laugh my ass off. There was something wrong with that guy, I think, man. He, didn't follow me, but then, was making all these comments. I was like, I had some fun with that. That guy was really upset for kind of no reason. I don't know what his issue was. But hey, you get some of those people out of the woodworks on Twitter. And yeah, sometimes it's nice having some fun with them, messing with them. Burks or Rui, and Green or Hunter. Again, same thing I just said with Burks and Rui. Burks for the upside. I think Rui's a little bit safer. I'm more secure with the minutes. And Green or Hunter. I'll go Danny Green there for fave 2 of Trey, Randall, Beal, and JV. Give me Randall and optimal build wise, it's probably Randall and Trey. But yeah, I do like JV as a sneaky tournament play. Can you play Taj and Noel together? I guess you could. It's not something I'm going to look to jam both in. But assuming Noel plays, then we get about 30 minutes for Noel and the rest for Taj, which should be about 18 or so. And they're both cheap. Yeah, I'm fine with it. Triple J or Gafford? Triple J. Both have foul trouble issues, but I think there's upside for more minutes for Triple J. Bertans or 1 for cash? Bertans or who? Top fade. Westbrook. Westbrook, I think, is going to be decently popular. I have no interest. How do you feel about Rose, Brooks, O'Neal, Tobias Harris, Embiid, Seth, Taj, and JV? Again, it's a little bit contrarian. I like that you're pairing Embiid with one of those main guys from Philly. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Beal or Embiid? Definitely Embiid. Large field tournaments, Mitchell, Beal, Burks, Rand. I'm guessing that's Rui, Embiid, Seth, Dillon, Brooks, Derek Favors. It's pretty risky. Melton thoughts? I mean, what you really need with Melton is you need a blowout, or you need some random foul trouble on Ja or Brooks. Other than that, I have a hard time seeing him pay off. Love you, DK. Love you too, man. How many Sixers is too many? I think you could play 3 tonight. Conley or Brooks? Straight up, it's Conley. He has a little bit of a higher floor, but I think both those guys are going a little bit under-owned on the slate. Royce or Green? Royce is both have a pretty low floor. Upside-wise, I think it's Danny Green. I hate to say it. Love Gibson. Yeah, I actually think Gibson's in play either way. Now, again, if Noel plays, I'm not as excited about it, but he's close to min price, and he will play 15 to 20 minutes. That's his role off the bench, backup big, 15 to 20 minutes. And maybe if Noel gets in some foul trouble or actually aggravates an ankle injury, then Taj plays way more, and then he crushes. Just got here. What are your thoughts on Taj Gibson? I think he is a must-play if Noel is out. If Noel is in, I think he is still playable, but doesn't look like a smash play. What do you think of Rose, Grayson Allen, Alec Burks, Taj, Embiid, Mitchell, Dillon Brooks, and Gobert? High risk, high reward. But if things go right, I think that the lineup has a lot of upside. Smash the like button, y'all. I appreciate it. We're already at 117 likes, guys. Again, helps me out a lot. Any shares of Gobert tonight, DK? Yeah, I think Gobert's pretty solid. Maybe it's a little bit biased, but him and JV are basically identical price points. I think JV has more upside, so that's the reason I'm going to JV. But I think both are good lower owned plays today. I just think I have slightly into Jones, Valanciunas. 5.2K guard. Yeah, it's probably Seth Curry. Again, I'm not super excited about it, but he should play about 30 minutes. Again, somewhere lying in the scoring, but I think that's the move. Simmons, Harris, Embiid, Green, too many Sixers. I could see it working out if this game stays close and it's super high scoring, and the other two, like the last game, blows out, and the Knicks Hawks game is super low scoring. That's the way that works out. I think, optimal build wise, I think you want to limit it to 3, but I could still see that working out playing 4 76ers. Again, the way that works out is the other two games completely bust. You need the blowout in the late game. You need a super low scoring game in the second game. So it is possible. Ben Simmons, Rose, Green, Taj, Embiid, Bogdan, Randall, and Len. A little bit risky. Again, Len, right, you're taking the center roulette strategy there. I don't have an issue doing it, but just know there's a chance he barely plays. Right, we've seen it multiple times from Scott Brooks here. Seth Curry or Danny Green. Point per dollar, it's actually Danny Green, because I think both play about 30 minutes, and I'll take the cheaper of the two. I have 2 76ers rolling with Simmons and Green. That's solid. Again, fading Embiid, though, I will say, is pretty risky. I want to make that clear. Embiid is my favorite spend up, and it's not close on the slate. It's not close. I will not be fading Joel Embiid. I do not believe you guys should be too. But maybe we get random foul trouble again, and then you'll see me tilting on Twitter, and then maybe see a couple guys come out of the woodworks again, and we can have some fun on Twitter. Are you fading Randall then if you have Embiid Randall? What do you mean? Embiid JV? I haven't finalized my build right now, but Randall is a guy that I'm definitely looking to get to. But if I do go the Embiid JV route, then it's going to be hard. So Ben Simmons or Derrick Rose. Are we talking point per dollar or straight up? Point per dollar, Derrick Rose, straight up Ben Simmons. Neto, Rose, Mitchell, Beal, Rui, Danny Green, O'Neal, Randall, Jonas, Valanciunas. Again, I just want to caution. I really think fading Embiid is a super risky move tonight. So just know that. Curry, Randall, Gibson, or Bogdanovich, Anderson, and Burks. I'll go the first one. Utah ain't going down 0-2. In my opinion, very high risk game. Utah wins by at least 15. I think that's going to be the mindset for a lot of people. Mitchell back, everyone's going to kind of avoid that game, and that's again, like I kind of hinted, I'm taking a risk on JV, but it's just an ownership thing on a 3-game slate. Sometimes I'll play. I mean, I talk about this a good amount, but usually I like playing a good amount of the chalkier plays because I think the chalk in NBA is most of the time good chalk. Besides last few or 2 of the last 3 slates, and then maybe getting different 1 or 2 spots. So sometimes I'll take a shot on some lower owned value plays. Sometimes I'll take a shot in a lower owned star. Tonight I'm gonna take a shot in a lower owned star and hope it works out for me. Don't you think there's at least some merit to thinking the Philly game blows out? Yeah, I think that you could think that as well. 8.5 point spread, 9.5 point spread. It is possible. And Philadelphia is going to be super, super popular. So there's also merit to going underweight in the first game and hoping for a blowout, right? We've seen a good amount of blowouts already, right? I had Kemba and Smart last slate. That hurt. Only 3 quarters. Derrick Rose, Brooks, O'Neal, Bertans, Embiid, Trey, Green, Simmons. I like the upside. 4.7K and under forward. All right. So, yeah, I think Rui is the safer option. Burks if we're shooting for the upside, right? I think there's a little bit more risk involved with Burks, but Rui's the safer option. So it depends how you want to play it. Trey, Derrick Rose, Danny Green, Taj, Embiid, Brooks, Beal, Len. Again, a little bit high risk, high reward with a guy like Len. If you guys want to take the shot in the center roulette, I'm not going to talk you off them. Conley, Rose, Green, Harris, Embiid, Mitchell, Royce, Bertans. Looks pretty good to me. Young, Curry, Burks, Taj, JV, Rose, Rui, Joel. Okay. Bertans or O'Neal for cash. So for me there, it's O'Neal. If you have the salary, I think O'Neal does a little bit more besides score the ball, even though he still has a low floor. But I don't think O'Neal plays 35 minutes and goes for 5 fancy points, whereas Bertans, if he doesn't shoot the ball well, could get limited to like 20 minutes and could get you 5 fancy points. So I think I would go O'Neal there. What is a Rob Williams case of the Twins? All right, guys. It is now past 5:30 Central, so let me refresh one more time. See if we got any more news. I think we're good to go. Noel is playing. Noel available to play in the starting lineup. Okay, so yeah, I think Noel is a really good value play today. I still think Taj is at least viable because he's power forward eligible. But yeah, Noel I think makes for one of the safer value plays on the board. Curry or Green, again, straight up, it's Green for the discount. And let's see what else we got. Noel in. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Good luck. Enjoy these 3 games. I'll be back here tomorrow, as always, to break it down. I think we have another 3-game slate. So I will see you guys all then. Again, let's hope for some big wins tonight.